Hi, I make videos about video games. Even though Mafia 3 has been out for 6 years, it still holds up as one of the best stories ever told in a video game. It takes place in 1951 in New Orleans, and you play as Lincoln Clay. The game is all about revenge. As you rebuild your crew, you take over territory from the barbarians, which lets you do increasingly daring hits on their leadership, until eventually you can take them all down. But the main thing that makes the story so compelling is how morally gray everything is. The main character, Lincoln Clay, is a great example of this. He's a war hero who's come back home to find his family murdered, so of course, you want him to win. And we see him relapse multiple times throughout the story. Also, while the game does its best to paint the rival gang as villains, they're not some cartoonishly evil mafia. They're just a bunch of poor black kids who grew up with no prospects. So they turned to crime because they had no other choice. And even though the Mafia did bad things, they were still family to Lincoln. And so we were always torn between wanting to help him seek revenge and wanting to help these innocent kids get a better future. But one of my favorite things about this game is how even the cutscenes play out like a movie. See, cutscenes are normally when the game pauses and then shows you a pre-rendered video to advance the plot. This means you don't lose any sense of immersion when the cutscene starts. You just keep playing until it ends. And speaking of immersion, the soundtrack in this game is phenomenal. Mafia 3 is set in the 1950s, so the whole game is basically like a jukebox of 50s classics. It's pretty clear why they chose this song for this scene. Music isn't just background flavor in Mafia 3. The soundtrack actively contributes to the emotional impact of the story. In one mission, you have to break into a record store to steal some vinyl. Normally, this would be like a stealth mission where you need to sneak past enemies and stay hidden. But instead, the game turns into a rhythm game. See, when you enter the store, the radio is on, and you have to match the beat by hitting the notes that appear on screen. If you mess up, the alarm goes off, and it's time to fight your way out. But if you hit all your notes, the security guard doesn't hear anything. I love stuff like this where a game finds creative ways to let you use the tools available in the setting. It's like, hey, if you're in a record store, you might as well bust out the old turntable. Anyway, after you escape with the records, it turns out that the boss wanted them. Stolen because he used to date the singer, and he wants to give her a copy of the single she made before she got famous. Again, this is another example of the main theme of the game, which is that everyone is morally gray. The boss is obviously a bad guy, but he's still able to be romantic and sentimental. Similarly, the rival gang leader, despite being a ruthless killer, is also a devoted father and husband. In fact, he was willing to call off the war with Lincoln's mob family because he didn't want his boys to go to prison or get killed. It was the mobsters who refused, which forced him to continue fighting. The game really hammers home how both sides are at fault in this conflict, because it forces you to make tough choices as a player. For example, early in the game you encounter a police officer named Zach Bridges, who tells you that he knows about the murders of your mob family. You can choose to trust him and form an alliance, or you can kill him and take the evidence with you. The cool thing is, no matter what you choose, the story adapts to your decision. If you sided with the cops later in the game, you'll have access to a police precinct where you can buy weapons and ammo. But if you killed Zach, you'll have to steal weapons from armories instead. You can also choose to help or hinder various civilians throughout the game. Some of these side quests directly affect the ending, while others seem inconsequential. But again, the game rewards your curiosity by making you explore this morally gray area. For example, there's a guy named Johnny who asks you to steal a car for him. This could easily be written as a throwaway quest, but the game makes you feel bad for him because he's trying to raise money to go see his dying mother. So even though you don't have to do it, you probably will because you're a nice guy, or maybe you won't because you're an a-hole. It's your choice. And the same goes for the ending. Depending on your choices throughout the game, you'll either get a good, bad, or neutral ending. To get the good ending, you have to recruit every member of your possible crew, complete every major side quest, and then save the rival gang leader's life during the final mission. If you do all that, the game will reward you with a more hopeful ending. But if you recruit fewer people, complete fewer side quests, and then kill the rival gang leader, you'll get a darker ending. And yeah, it's really dark. It's no spoilers, but it involves Lincoln turning into the very thing he was fighting against. As you can tell, this game is all about making choices and dealing with the consequences. But it's also about appreciating the nuance of the world and characters the developers created. While most games will give you a clear-cut villain and a clear-cut hero, Mafia 3 gives you a cast of flawed people who are struggling to do the right thing. And it challenges you to decide for yourself who the good guys are and what choices you would make if you were in their shoes. So do you think you'd get the good, bad, or ugly ending? Let me know in the comments. Then go watch this video about a game with a similar name but a completely different vibe, or this other video about another game with a great story.